Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Number to call if you want to join the conversation about anything we've talked about over the course of the program. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Be sure to confine your comments to something we have talked about during the program. One last sound. Well, I got a couple more here. This is Bibi Netanyahu, and the frustration that Israel has right now. Iran is getting ready to nuke up. They are just months away from having a nuclear weapon. And the Israelis know that the window of opportunity to stop them is closing. If an attack is launched now in the near future, they could derail the Iran nuclear weapons program by up to 4 years. But the window is closing. The time to strike is going to be now. And by the way, we're getting some kind of information from kind of boots on the ground in Israel that the Israeli military is ramping up. They are mobilizing. Something is coming. And again, Bibi Netanyahu, he's got his nation to worry about. He can't be worried about presidential elections in the United States. That's not his concern. He says, look, people are trying to draw me into that presidential election. I don't want to get in the middle of that. I'm not involved in that. I'm about protecting the interest of my people. And here's what Bibi Netanyahu had to say on Meet the Press yesterday about Iran having nuclear weapons. Let's listen.
The world tells Israel, wait, there's still time. And I say, wait for what? Wait until when? Those in the international community who refuse to put red lines before Iran don't have a moral right to place a red light before Israel.
And he wanted to say on Meet the Press, look, Iran's guided by a leadership with unbelievable fanaticism. It's the same fanaticism that you see storming your embassies today. Do you want these fanatics to have nuclear weapons? And the answer is clearly no. And yet all he keeps hearing from Barack Obama is wait, don't attack, wait. And he says, well, how long are we supposed to wait? And you got no right, if you won't draw some kind of red line, if you won't help us understand at what point you would be willing to intervene, then you've got no right to put a stoplight in front of us. Here's John Sununu, clip 14. Because realize that Barack Obama skipped 60%, almost 60% of his intelligence briefings, just skipped them. He skipped one the day of 9/11. On 9/12, the next day, he skipped an intelligence briefing in order to go to Las Vegas, if you can believe it. To go to Las Vegas, he skipped an intelligence briefing the day after our embassy was assaulted, our consulate was overrun, and 4 Americans were killed. He skipped an intelligence briefing to go to Las Vegas. And here's what John Sununu had to say about Barack Obama.
You know, only in his own mind. And this is the problem with this president. Everything is in his own mind. This is the most arrogant, self-centered, and in fact, incompetent president of my lifetime.
And then he has a second comment to make about the fact that Barack Obama has skipped 56% of his intelligence briefings. And this is different than that cowboy Bush. He had intelligence briefings 6 days a week, and he kept every single one of them. It took a major event to keep him from receiving his intelligence briefing. Here's what John Sununu said about that.
Can you imagine a president that skips more than half of his presidential daily briefings? I was chief of staff for a president that had those attended by the CIA briefers religiously, even if we had to fly the briefers to wherever he was. You cannot be president of the United States effectively and think that you are smart enough just to read the summary paper that they give you for the presidential daily brief. That is designed to create conversation and discussion. Those are not quick read papers. Those are documents that stimulate the discussion with the briefers who go into detail on what is going on. It is no wonder that this president doesn't know what's going on in the world if he has skipped 60% of those briefings.
Now, that is John Sununu, former chief of staff to President Bush. So he knows a president that took those daily intelligence briefings very seriously. Let's go to our phones, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Dave, Midway Park, North Carolina.
It's James.
Oh, James, how are you? Welcome to Focal Point.
You?
What's on your mind today?
Well, when I walked in the door, you were speaking of the Muslims saying that God doesn't have a son, and that you gave the proof out of Matthew. Okay, well, I got news for you. I got proof out of the book of Daniel, in the Old Testament. And it says, that the fourth man in the fire was likened to the capital S-O-N, son of capital G-O-D.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go.
That was the pre-incarnate Christ.
Yes, there you go.
That was Jesus Christ himself. And look, as far as Barack not attending meetings and so on, he's already had little secret meetings with the very people who cooked up that little attack over there in Syria and everywhere else. And our tax money did it. How much money is he planning on giving the Muslim Brotherhood? $5 billion or so?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Muslim Brotherhood has access to the Obama administration. They're meeting with them all the time.
That's right.
Muslim Brotherhood's running all of Egypt. They're behind a lot of this unrest in the Middle East. And Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's closest aide and advisor, she was a leader in the Muslim Brotherhood movement at the college level. Her father was a leader in the Muslim Brotherhood movement till the day he died. Her mom is still a leader in the Muslim Sisterhood. Huma Abedin wrote for years for a family publication that promoted Brotherhood ideology. So this administration hopelessly compromised on the Muslim Brotherhood.
He's a traitor, and so is his whole staff.
All right, James, listen, I appreciate the call. Strong words, but I find it very hard to disagree with anything James had to say there. Right on the money. Let's go to Lyric in Houston, Texas. Lyric, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. I had a couple of comments to make to the individuals who are trying to determine whether or not their conscience would allow them to vote for Romney.
Yes.
A couple of the issues that have been brought to my mind. First of all, because of the system that we have, and obviously you've been reiterating this time and again, our two-party system, we have to vote tactically. And as Scripture says, we have to be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. But a couple of things that I haven't really heard mentioned very often in this entire discourse is the issue that whatever president comes in this next term will most likely be putting forth individuals for the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And that is a lifetime appointment. So even if we don't agree with the individual and all of their different issues as far as what they stand for morally in every regard, and I don't with Mr. Romney, we need to realize that, or Governor Romney, that individual will be appointing people to the Supreme Court. Moving forward. So if you want to look at someone who really has a very anti-American, anti-God ideology, and President Obama really is the most religiously hostile president that we've ever seen, even
Correct.
beating Carter, I think. So when you want to take that into consideration, understanding the legacy that he will be leaving in that regard, and then you take in Governor Romney, who, yes, he is a Mormon. Yes, he does have some ideals with which we do not agree. However, he is much more compatible with our thought processes than Obama is. So that is one thing to consider. And the other point that I briefly had is that when you realize that Jesus Christ is not going to be on the ticket, you also have to realize that there is never going to be a perfect candidate, and we will also be voting for the lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm.
I know many people are in support of Ron Paul, but I have also heard a extensive 15-minute interview with him while he explains that he does not think that homosexuality is a sin in the eyes of God. So no candidate is perfect. I don't care who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're taking into account life, and that is a major issue here, both as far as foreign policy and abortion, President Obama, when he was senator, voted 4 times against the Born Alive Protection Act. And there is a video currently going out from the Susan B. Anthony list detailing that, how he voted against protecting babies who survived abortions. So you have a man with this ideology. We need to realize that we are going to have a legacy long past the person we elect for these next 4 years, and that will be the legacy in the Supreme Court.
All right, Larry, thank you very much. In fact, Barack Obama, in that, we played the soundbite, he referred to a baby, a newborn baby that survived an abortion attempt as a fetus outside the womb. Wouldn't even refer, well, he referred to it, or a child, said you could use either term, but he called it a fetus outside the womb. And, of course, in liberal speak, if it's a fetus, you can kill it. So Larry reminding us, this next president is going to appoint justices to the United States Supreme Court. And what are you going to be able to expect from a president that defends infanticide? How important is the life issue going to be to him when he appoints a justice to the Supreme Court? And my good friend Neil Mamman, to pick up on one other thing Lyric said, Neil Mamman has said, as long as Jesus is not on the ballot, we're always going to be choosing between the lesser of two evils. Let's go to Stephen in Singer, Louisiana. Stephen, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hello, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
So on my mind is the lady that was on earlier that was in the movie.
Yes.
I forgot her name.
Yeah, Sherry Rigby.
Okay, with Shelley. She mentioned about the fathers that are involved, in the abortions.
Yes.
And don't really hear that much, And it is hard for the fathers. I know. I was involved in an abortion. It's been many years ago.
Yeah.
I know the Lord's forgiven me, and it's taken many years after that to forgive myself.
Yes. Yes.
But I believe the Lord has, wants me to speak out. He hasn't showed me how yet, but speak out about that, the women and the men
Yes.
involved in it, that there is forgiveness.
Yeah.
And like I say, forgiving yourself, if they're anything like me, is the hardest issue.
Yeah. All right, Stephen. Well, listen, thank you, and I appreciate that very much. And, Sherry did make the point, for every abortion, for every woman that suffers through an abortion, there's a father out there that's complicit in that event, or may be complicit, is likely complicit in one or another. You do have the fathers who do not want the baby to be aborted, but then they still suffer from the woundedness of the fact that it's something that's permissible in our culture. So it's not just post-abortive moms, but post-abortive fathers that need healing from God as well. Now, to him who is able to strengthen you according to my gospel and the preaching of Jesus Christ, to the only wise God, be glory forevermore through Jesus Christ. Amen. Don't forget to bow low before God, stand tall before man, stand in the gap, and never forget, with God's help, we are fighting a winnable war. See you back here tomorrow.
The views